Hi, I'm Ted London, a faculty member at the Ross School of Business, and today I'm with Jasmine Boyle, Chief Development Officer at the Rural Alaska Community Action Program, also known as RurAL. Jasmine, thanks for being here today.
My pleasure, Ted. Thank you for having me.
I wanted to talk a little bit about the social enterprise that RurAL is in the process of developing, but maybe before we dive into that, can you talk a little bit about RurAL and how it thinks about addressing housing needs in Alaska?
Absolutely. RurAL is a 58-year-old organization that serves the entirety of the state of Alaska, the largest state in the nation. In our many decades of work in Alaska, our focus has always been alleviating poverty. And in a world where we try to be strengths-based and really think about self-determination, the alternative to poverty is economic development. So we are an organization that has a long history of looking at economic development engines with our partners around the state and those we serve. Housing is really the root of all of that in Alaska. We have an incredible housing shortage that has existed for several decades, but is particularly made more complicated by climate change, by the reality of colonialism in our state, but also by the incredible geopolitical challenges with our different tribal partners and sovereign nations, and also the logistics of villages that are completely disconnected from the rest of the country, certainly the rest of the state.
If you think about housing in rural communities, one of the challenges is the number of houses, and the second is the quality of the houses.
Absolutely.
And focusing on the quality of the houses, RurAL runs a weatherization program.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. Weatherization demystified is home improvement. It's taking existing housing stock using a scientific analysis done by professionals to determine how to make that home more energy efficient, have cleaner air, be safer for those who live in it, mold remediation, etc. RurAL, as a nonprofit in the state of Alaska, has weatherized almost 40,000 homes. This is a state that has a population smaller than 1 million, and we have weatherized 40,000 homes. And every year when we open our wait list, we have more homes in need than we have capacity to serve.
So, as I understand it, currently the weatherization program works through a Department of Energy grant,
Yes.
which both limits the number of houses you can reach in a year and also caps the amount that you can provide to these houses.
Correct.
So, in some sense, your existing weatherization program is quite effective, but runs into some boundary conditions.
Yes.
There's now a new federal legislation, the Inflation Reduction Act, which opens up the possibility of doing more weatherization work for both in terms of the number of people that it can serve and the amount that these people can access. And this, as I understand it, was sort of the catalyst for the idea of a new social enterprise. Can you walk us through that?
Right now, functionally, we have about $7,000 per family to weatherize. But our housing scientists, based on their analysis, would tell you that we need $45,000 per home in 2023 to make those homes livable and to meet basic US standards. So we want to bring that margin to something more manageable because the people we serve also agree not to request more weatherization services for 15 years if they accept that grant support. So what we're really looking to do with that social enterprise is find a way in a base of the pyramid model to create some unrestricted funding through providing these services more broadly to help us subsidize the work that we do for people who live in the most complex poverty. And we can also look at innovating because we've been in rural Alaska for almost 60 years. So we know our partners, many of our employees live and work in these villages full time. So we can build on that. But as you mentioned, the Inflation Reduction Act has made new funding available to the open market to do things that historically were grant-based weatherization work. So what we looked at simplistically was, gosh, there's new money to do work that we're already doing and good at that would allow us to not only expand services to those living in the most complex poverty, but also to folks like me who would like to have those services for my own family. I can pay market rate, and that can help subsidize somebody who can't afford to pay market rate for some of these modifications to their home.
And in this case, your traditional nonprofit work is based on grants.
Correct.
And The individuals apply, and then they potentially receive a grant, and then you do the work. The social enterprise is more of a fee for service.
Yes.
What are the different skills that you need to bring into the social enterprise that may not be present in the nonprofit or the other existing social enterprise?
Well, on the business side, one, you're entering the world of competition. With our grants, we have a geographic area, and we're the only service provider that weatherizes in those areas through the grant. Open market means anybody in the state can come to us and ask us to weatherize. So, one, we're making a service that was historically only available to people of a certain income bracket available to everybody. Now we're talking about marketing, we're talking about consumer education. And I'm confident that when I bring up tax credits and tax rebates, most people immediately disengage from the conversation. So when I say consumer education, we need to teach people that there is money available to them to offset these costs in a way that is digestible and of interest. We're also talking about a different business structure and how that connects to the nonprofit. And there's always intricacies with that. But it's doable. It's allowable. Others have done similar things, and it is a time of opportunity. So we look for ways, and in this case, ways that the business world has used for decades to think about a smart solution to a challenging problem.
And as we sort of wrap this up, as you think about, Rural Cap, how does this new social enterprise complement what Rural Cap is doing as a nonprofit?
So in many ways, when we think about the opportunity with the infrastructure investments to a state that has incredibly limited infrastructure, this is also about our tribal partners deciding their own future for their own communities. That feels incredibly important in this day and age. And we're at the cutting edge of climate change. And if you can't feel inspired about that, you're not reading the news. So I think we have a gift of having the basic building blocks to do something with partners in a way that allows them to lead for their own communities that could change the economic futures of our people for decades to come.
That sounds wonderful, Jasmine.
I'm excited.
Thanks for taking the time to talk.
Thank you for having me.